Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of FiST Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern to talk about some good old-fashioned Hollywood horror stories. So you're looking forward to this one, Steve.
Hi there, Ben. It's a big hello to everyone out there in FiST Chat land. And no, it's not horror films, it's horror stories about films.
That's right. We're talking about Hollywood itself here, and it's something that if you go to your local cinema, go to watch a film, there's a whole world behind what got that film into the cinema in the first place, and in some cases, some films never see the light of day because of a lot of funny goings on in Hollywood land, and I mean we're just going to go through a couple of them today. But
they certainly don't tell you the truth on the back of the DVD box, that's for sure.
Oh, you're saying that those 10 hours of special features that Peter Jackson put on Lord of the Rings or whatever isn't 100% accurate?
Wow, I can't believe he never made Lord of the Rings without a single argument.
That's right. Just one, I mean, this is sort of a soft one to start with, but it's a good example of that creative sort of angst between, the filmmaker and the executive. I was just reading earlier this week that David Fincher, director of Seven and a lot of other really good films, Fight Club, one of my favourites.
Yeah.
He's filming The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the American version at the moment, and he's apparently embroiled in a bit of a dispute with the studio over the runtime. Now, you'll probably side with the studio on this one because he's apparently cut it to about 3 hours.
Oh,
and they want it cut down to a lean 220, which actually I think is probably the right thing. But regardless of what you think of runtime, he's basically it's the same old argument. The director's saying here that you're going to compromise the story if you cut it down any further. And apparently, according to accounts, based on how the book goes and all of that, if you do start cutting it down, it is going to start affecting the actual story that's presented. But of course, a 3-hour film, you can't squeeze as many screenings in per 24 hours. So what do you think of things like that, Steve?
Well, I'll say two things. One is that I'm pretty sure it was Clint Eastwood said he didn't make director's cuts because he is the director. So, maybe he's one of the few people in Hollywood that gets his way. But then he doesn't make 3-hour-long films. Is Girl with the Dragon Tattoo probably shot digitally?
Yeah, Fincher does them all digital now. So
okay, so it's not a production cost then. So it definitely is a number of screenings, and obviously those genius Hollywood execs have decided that 140 minutes is the optimal time for a big budget blockbuster.
Absolutely. And just as a sort of a sidebar to that, apparently Fincher had a similar dispute when in, what was it, Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Yeah. He wanted it to be the length that it turned out to be. And as a result, apparently the Paramount scuttled his next two projects with him over it. So, so there's
a lot of bad blood in Hollywood. And, before I produced and directed my first film, I heard Ridley Scott on the radio saying that every film's an exercise in damage control. And maybe our friend Mr. Fincher is learning that the hard way.
Absolutely. Okay, well, let's move on to another one since we can't fit them all into our tight little episode here. So we were just discussing before, you were telling us about the old Val Kilmer and Red Planet sort of fiasco.
Yes.
Do you mind going through that one?
Well, yeah, I actually, believe it or not, I had a friend involved in the filming of Red Planet, actually working on in the crew, and that was being shot outside of Broken Hill in South Australia. A lot of the Mars scenes, because it looks very Martian. It's a little bit warmer than Mars, but looks very Martian out there. And allegedly, and I guess I have to use the word allegedly, from witness accounts, what we have is a big bust-up between Val Kilmer and Tom Sizemore. It's hard to say who started it. but the end result was both of them refusing to be seen on set together, refusing to work together, to the point where scenes in where they appeared together had to be shot at different times from different angles, and they actually had to superimpose both actors in wide shots. It then progressed to Val Kilmer not coming out of his caravan, the producers having to ring up Hollywood and get a big producer sent over from the States, who after 3 days and then arrived and then banged on Val Kilmer's door, telling him to get out here right now, finish off the film, or he'd never work again. He managed to convince Val to come out, and strangely, even though they were 6 weeks over, and that equated to, I think, probably about 10 million budget over or something, Val Kilmer has not worked again.
And rightly so, I think. You would almost think it was kindergarten by what you were describing there.
Well, you've worked with actors, Ben. I'm not going to say any more.
That's a whole other topic. We'll move on. There was another interesting story that you were telling me just before about Douglas Trumbull as well, and the last film that he did. Do you want to maybe just go through that one as well?
Well, that's another big disaster story. Douglas Trumbull, a very, very gifted special effects producer, but also a fantastic director in his own right. He's responsible for the special effects in Blade Runner, which is just about on everyone's top 10 list. He was producing the last film that he ever made was Brainstorm with the late Natalie Wood. She unfortunately died in the last couple of days of production. Now, he had enough footage to finish the film, and he had every intention of finishing that film and releasing it. The Hollywood studio stopped him dead. He argued, I only need 2 days in the edit suite, I can finish it, no problem. The Hollywood executives stopped that film purely because they wanted to collect the insurance money. Yeah. He was completely incensed, and he's never directed another Hollywood film again.
Yeah, and I would as well. I mean, that's really quite disgusting, really, because I mean, it's not all about business, unfortunately, and that's somebody's life at stake there. So,
well, look, Hollywood does a very good job of a little bit of tinsel, a little bit of glamour, and convincing you that Hollywood and the movies is everything, but. The truth is, I'm afraid that it's all money for those guys.
Yeah, and actually, I just thought of one too back in the '80s, the Twilight Zone movie.
Oh,
where,
yes.
Spielberg produced it, and along with a couple others, and it was just meant to be an anthology movie. And there was that unfortunate accident with was it Vic Morrow? Yep. Yeah, and the helicopter that fell on him, as you do, and decapitated him. And it was all down allegedly to the director just not, just keeping on pushing and trying to get that dangerous-looking shot. And as it turned out, it was too dangerous. And somebody, and it wasn't just him. I think it was the kids involved as well that were in the scene as well that got killed. And that was a big one, and it's amazing that these things happen, and all for what, really? Because it's a piece of entertainment. It's not they weren't advancing some sort of cure for cancer or uncovering the secrets of the universe that would make our lives all better or whatever. This is just a film, and when you hear about examples like that, it's really not that good.
Well, I'll just add to that, like other disasters such as Kevin Costner's last couple of films. I mean, he'd had a whole string of hits, and he had 2 bad ones, and they dumped him pretty quick, and that probably wasn't even a dispute. That was just purely a monetary decision. That's what Hollywood's all about.
And I'd say in today's world, you'd only have to have 1 bad film for that to happen, and probably wouldn't matter if you'd made 10 money makers. And here we go. If you want another lesson as to how it's all about the money, just chart the course of M. Night Shyamalan's career. Now, obviously Sixth Sense was well regarded and is a good film, and was obviously his biggest success, probably financially. He had another couple of good runs with Unbreakable and Signs, at least in the finance department. He took a bit of a stumble when he seemed to keep repeating the same formula with his other films, but at the end of the day, each one of his films has made money. And that's why they keep opening the checkbook up to him. Because even though it seems that every successive film that he makes turns out to be worse than the last one, somehow they still make money. And
in Hollywood, they say it's their mantra. Any good film is a film that makes money.
Exactly. But there's an article that I saw where he was describing this moment that he said was the biggest mistake in his career, and it happened on Unbreakable. He was having a chat with a Disney executive who basically what he wanted to do with Unbreakable was to treat it as a comic book movie. You know, sort of a realistic comic book movie. That's how he wanted it marketed and all that sort of thing, because that's what the film was. But the executives were insisting that they market it a la Sixth Sense style, that it was a spooky kind of thriller. And he said that was the biggest mistake he ever made, agreeing to that, because now he's only known as the guy that makes the spooky movies with the twist ending. And he didn't want to have people tell him that, you know, whenever one of his movies shows up. It's
a very, very tough business. Very tough business. And you're only one flop away from being sent away.
Exactly. But maybe if we just finish up now, since we're sort of running out of time now, but I wanted to just quickly talk about John Peters, and to a lesser extent, I think it's Peter Guber as well. There were two basically Hollywood titans starting in the 80s, and this is more on the executive level, to show how scary it can kind of get with the egos and the dollars, and what can happen if you just let these sort of guys loose. They were basically put in charge with for Sony entering into Hollywood, and I don't think they knew what hit them when they got these guys involved. So it sounds like, I mean, it's probably not much now, but at the time they got $2.7 million in salary every year, got their own corporate jet. And apparently Peters used to use the corporate jet to fly flowers to an actress working in London.
That's the Hollywood lifestyle, Ben.
Oh, it's absolutely brilliant. But the one that I loved, and this has got to hurt really, but Sony apparently agreed to hire the two guys and pay an astounding $200 million for their film production company. But later on, they found out they had to pay an additional $500 million worth of concessions to them because they had an existing contract with Warner Brothers. It's amazing. I mean, just like thinking about all these things, Steve. Just in summary, I mean, it's just mad. It's a mad world. And I once heard. We bring up Apple quite a bit, but there's an idea that they had so much cash that they could buy some of these entertainment companies, which would obviously make it easier for them to distribute the content because they have the delivery system. But I've also heard from commentators that they're not interested in getting that business because there's a whole lot of baggage attached to it.
Don't make any mistake, I think Steve Jobs got out of Pixar for the right reasons, Once it became a film company and not a film production unit.
Yeah.
Time to go.
Absolutely, yeah. Do you think there's any hope for Hollywood in the future, or?
Look, the truth is that even though Hollywood does attract the most evil, wicked scumbags, it also attracts the greatest talent that there is in filmmaking. So, whatever happens, Hollywood will always produce the best films. There's the right people are there, and if you can see past the money, I think you can get a lot of pleasure from what Hollywood's got to give.
Absolutely. All right, we might end it there. Thanks again, Steve, for the chat. It was always fun, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more to talk about Hollywood in the future if it's still standing the next time we talk about it.
People have predicted its demise, but it ain't going to end. It'll be there somehow.
Absolutely. Okay, so don't forget our website is available at www.fistchat.com. Get all our social media, YouTube videos, and whatever else that we've got uploaded there. You'll be able to access from there. That's it for this episode, so we'll catch you next week.